Good evening, members. Welcome to our Cabinet meeting on the 11th of February 2026. Members, we're not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm goes off during the meeting, please leave immediately to the nearest emergency exit and gather outside the Runnymede Hall. Cabinet members, could you please introduce yourself, starting on the right with Councillor Mountford.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Steve Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources. Thank you.
Good evening all. Councillor Russ Savage, Cabinet Member for People and Community.
Good evening, Councillor Tim Copsey, Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening all. Councillor Rob Lillis, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Housing.
Evening all. Councillor Tom Gibson, Cabinet Member for Special Projects and Assets.
Good evening, everybody. Councillor Barry Palmer, Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Climate Action.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening. Councillor Michael Fuller, Cabinet Member for Environment.
Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 1, apologies of absence. Sonia, any apologies?
We've got apologies from Councillor Warren Gibson.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, do we have any interest to declare? No interest. Thank you, members. Agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of January. Members, is it agreed that I sign the minutes of being a true reflection of the last meeting? Thank you very much, members. Item 4, members' questions on notice. Members, there are none. Agenda item 5, garden waste contractual update of transfer station disposal and haulage services. Councillor Fuller, will you please introduce this report?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, good evening, members. The report before you recommends the awarding of a new 5-year contract with the option to extend for up to a further 5 years for a garden waste transfer station and haulage to the composting facility as directed by Essex County Council. All garden waste collected from Castle Point residents will be composted. The contract supports the flexibility to accommodate garden waste seasonality, which sees an annual variance in garden waste volumes. The contract also supports a waste and recycling strategy key principle to improve cycling rates and minimise waste. The proposed contract is an increase in cost compared to the existing contract, in fact an increase of $42,000 per annum after the deduction of increased recycling credits received from Essex County Council. The Waste and Recycling Service will seek to make new and additional savings to offset this cost. I confirm that from a resident perspective, the proposed contract ensures a continuity of service, and there are exempt appendices which accompany the report which members will have had sight of. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Members, there are 2 exempt appendices in the report. Can I remind you that if you want to refer to them, we will have to exclude the press and public and stop the live stream. Are there any comments or questions, members? No comments. Thank you very much. Members, is the content of the report and the confidential appendices noted?
Noted.
Thank you very much. I will move recommendation 2 set out in paragraph 3.1 of the report. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mountford. Members, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. That concludes that item. Agenda item 6 is a verbal update on the tender of the new contract for planned repairs and maintenance housing. Councillor Lillis, will you please provide a verbal update?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, on the 5th of February 2026, we were briefed by officers on the proposed award of the new repairs and maintenance contract. This is the new contract due to take effect from 1st April 2026, which will provide a single contractor for all of the Council's reactive and planned capital works to its housing stock. You will remember that the Cabinet approved the commencement of the procurement process on 20th August 2025. Excuse me. The award of the contract was endorsed formally by the Leader on 5th February 2026. The timing of that decision was necessary to ensure mobilisation of the new contract could be undertaken in time to de-risk the 1st April start date. That is why all Cabinet members were briefed before the leader's endorsement was formally given. Member oversight was also important to provide assurance that this new contract would provide a quality service which is financially sustainable and affordable as part of the HRA business plan. I am grateful to Steve Colk, who sits beside me, for the briefing which he provided, and I'm grateful to my Cabinet colleagues for their support of me and the leader in giving his endorsement. The procurement process has been robust, and the leader and I were observers of the moderation exercise which took place after bids were scored by officers. I am pleased to say that we were joined by two of the council's tenants who also observed the moderation process and who asked intelligent and well-considered questions throughout. I thank them for giving up their time and sharing their thoughts with us. This was a first for this council and signalled to me as the portfolio holder that the changes being implemented by the Housing Improvement Programme really are resident focused. The scoring of the bids was based on 40% price and 60% quality, which ensured that officers were really testing the submissions made by the bidders to ensure not just affordability, but continued improvement and excellence in service delivery. I'm pleased to say that there was a clear winner, and that once finalisation of legal and procurement processes have been completed, I'll be able to formally make a public announcement. But what I can say is that the new contract does include provisions supporting the local supply chain for trades, including ethical payment practices, and there is a commitment to engage with providers in the local area who have knowledge and experience of working with this council. The contract also has new provisions relating to social value, which means that the new contractor will be giving back to the community through local initiatives designed to support tenants and increase community engagement. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. Members, are there any comments or questions? No? Then, members, is that verbal update noted? Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 7, members, is a one-year extension to the current South Essex Parking Partnership and Joint Committee Agreement. Councillor Fuller, please introduce this item.
Thank you, Leader. This item refers to the report which you will have had, members will have had sight of, and the appendix. It's quite a lengthy report, and so what I propose to do this evening is simply to give a summary of the important points and point members to the two options. Any questions obviously will come afterwards. So the report outlines a process required to extend the current South Essex Parking Partnership, short form SEP, Joint Committee Agreement for 1 year up to the 31st of March 2028. The background to this is that SEP has operated since the 1st of April 2011 and is governed by a Joint Committee Agreement involving several South Essex authorities. A new agreement commenced in 2022 for a period of 5 years with options for 3 one-year extensions. And the Joint Committee covers on-street parking. There is a separate service level agreement with Chelmsford City Council for enforcement within our car parks. The proposed extension, Essex County Council confirmed in December 2025 its intention to extend the agreement by 1 year. Partner authorities must provide written consent by the 31st of March 2026. The extension would support continuity ahead of local government reorganisation commencing on the 1st of April 2028. The key considerations within the report are that it ensures operational continuity for 2027-2028. It avoids disruption to SEP staff ahead of the LGR, that SEP remains financially self-sufficient to operate for the additional year, and withdrawal of any partner authorities prevents extension, triggering the agreement's termination on the 31st of March 2027. And there are two options within the report which we are asked to consider this evening. Option 1, which is the preferred option, is to provide written consent to extend SEP by 1 year, and option 2 to withdraw from SEP, accepting the risks outlined in the report. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Members, are there any questions? No questions. Thank you very much. Members, there's one recommendation set out in paragraph 3.1. I will move the recommendation. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Chair. Happy to recommend that.
Thank you, Councillor Mountford. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 8, a consultation on proposed reforms to the National Planning Policy Framework and other changes to the planning system, published on December the 16th, 2025. Councillor Copsey, could you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Leader. This report seeks Cabinet approval for the Council's proposed response to the Government's consultation on reforms to the National Planning Policy Framework, NPPF. The aim of the response is to provide clear evidence-based feedback on how the draft reforms may affect plan making and decision making within Castle Point. The Government's consultation introduced a number of potential changes to planning policy. Some of these may support effective and sustainable development delivery, while others require further clarification to ensure consistency, reduce the risk of misinterpretation and avoid unintended consequences for local decision making. The draft response in Appendix 1 sets out the Council's position in 3 main areas: supporting proposals that help to facilitate good quality development in suitable locations, identifying concerns where changes may reduce policy clarity, introduce ambiguity or weaken established planning protections, and requesting clarification where definitions, thresholds or processes need to be more precise to ensure robust, transparent and efficient implementation. The response highlights matters relating to Greenbelt policy, the definition and handling of previously developed land, proposed approaches to development near railway stations, expectations for density and design, affordable housing delivery mechanisms, and the pace and process of plan making. Where relevant, the draft response recommends clearer terminology, consistent national definitions for towns, villages and large built-up areas, and alignment with existing policy principles such as environmental protection and sustainable development. As can be seen by our response, we have covered all these matters carefully. They all have a direct impact on planning in our borough. Some of them might appear on the surface, may seem to be of little consequence, such as the definition of a village or a town. In reality, these terms make a crucial impact on Greenbelt decisions. The lack of clear definitions leads to dispute, delay and cost from subsequent appeals. Overall, the intention is to provide constructive evidence-led feedback to support a national policy framework that is clear, operationally workable and aligned with the needs and characteristics of the borough. Our response is rigorous, offers constructive criticism and sends a clear message to the government. Greenbelt must be protected and development should happen in the correct locations under clear guidance. I would like to give thanks for the work of officers who have assisted with this NPPF response, and I ask Cabinet to consider and approve the proposed response this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, are there any comments or questions? No comments or questions? Members, is the content of Apex 1, Appendix 1 noted? Thank you very much. I will move recommendation 2 set out in paragraph 3.1. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you. Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Mountford. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you, members. Agenda item 9, the Authorities Monitoring Report 24-25. Councillor Copsey, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Leader. Each year, the Council is required to prepare an authority monitoring report, setting out the progress it has made in terms of plan making, its housing delivery and land supply position, and its infrastructure funding statement. The report you have before you this evening looks at the period from April 24 to March 25. Appreciating this is a little outdated, officers are working to bring the report for this present year, 25-26, in June 2026, utilising the new resources that have been invested in the Development Management Service. In terms of the Authority Monitoring Report for 24-25, this shows good progress on several fronts. We've seen a net increase in the amount of employment floor space and have good levels of outstanding planning permissions for future employment floor space provision. We've seen a shift from a negative position to a positive position in terms of housing delivery and expect this to improve in future years. We've also begun to see the delivery of affordable housing on private sector-led sites, which is an improvement on recent years where all affordable housing delivery has been in council schemes only. We received close to £500,000 in Section 106 receipts in 24-25 and now have £850,000 to invest in new affordable homes to supplement our social housing stock. We also have the resources available to deliver new healthcare space within the Kiln Road site. In terms of SIL, we collected £250,000 in 24-25, up from just £1,000 in 23-24. We also had £274,000 in SIL liable for payment on the 1st of April 25, so we expect strong levels of SIL income in this current year. We are therefore in a strong position to put a SIL spending plan in place in the forthcoming months. This will enable us to commit SIL to local projects in advance of local government reorganisation. Whilst the 24-25 Authority Monitoring Report shows the excellent progress being made in delivering for our communities, the housing land supply position and housing delivery test outputs are below government expectations. On the 31st of January 2026, we submitted the Castle Point Plan for examination. This will address the issues around housing land supply and housing delivery by putting in place a realistic housing target for Castle Point. In the absence of an up-to-date plan, we are measured against the government standard method requirement for housing, which is not an appropriate housing target for Castle Point due to the size of the borough, its characteristics and its constraints. I hope that when we prepare the Authority Monitoring Report in future years, we'll be able to report a better housing land supply and housing delivery positions, because these will be based on the Castle Point Plan when adopted, which sets an appropriate target for measuring these outputs. I'd like to offer my thanks to all officers involved in preparing the monitoring report. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor members, are there any comments or questions? No comments or questions? Members, is this noted? Thank you very much, members. Agenda item 10 is the Housing Revenue Account 26-27 Business Plan. Councillor Mountford, please introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. The Housing Revenue Account Business Plan, HRA, is a legally ring-fenced budget. This means it's completely separate from the General Fund and the MTFS. Every single penny collected in rent is reinvested directly back into our council housing service. It is ring-fenced by law, but it is also fundamental to our responsibility as a social landlord. Members will be aware that the council received a C4 judgment for its housing service. That judgment reflected deep-rooted historic failings that developed over many years. They were serious and they were unacceptable. They were the direct result of housing being under-prioritised, under-resourced and poorly managed. And let me be absolutely clear. This administration did not shy away from that judgment. We faced it head on. In the report before you tonight, it is clear that historic issues included poor contract management, poor record keeping, poor performance management, insufficient investment in staff, and a lack of modern systems. This budget is about righting those wrongs. This budget has been built from the ground up based on accurate data, and this data simply did not exist previously. The data we have collected provided a clear understanding of what is required to deliver a safe, compliant, and well-managed housing service. This budget is an unprecedented investment in council housing. I'm proud to present the largest investment in the housing revenue account this council has ever seen. And to put the scale into context, In the year 23-24, capital repairs and maintenance spend was 3.1 million. In 24-25, it fell to 2.5 million, consistent with previous years. In 25-26, the figure doubled to 4.5 million, driven by urgent works, including 1.2 million for sheltered housing, 880,000 for fire safety works. In this year's budget, this is where the real step change happens. In 26-27, we will invest 15.8 million in our housing capital programme. That's over 3.5 times the current year's budget, and 6 times the level of investment seen just 2 years ago. This is a hugely significant intervention to correct years of underinvestment. What this investment delivers. This budget delivers real, measurable improvements for our tenants. Almost 3.8 million to ensure 100% homes meet the government's decent home standards. Over 2.5-6 million in fire safety improvements, more than 1.3 million invested in sheltered housing schemes, and 1.2 million for improvement to communal areas, and 400,000 for disabled adaptations, more than doubling the previous spend. We are continuing to invest in our housing management system, including a tenant portal, giving residents better access to information and easier ways to report issues, improving accountability and responsiveness. These are just the investments in year one. Across the full 30-year HRA business plan, there is a total expected capital investment amounting to 185.8 million. We are fixing the service, not just the buildings. We are investing in bricks and mortar alone, which is not enough. Within the revenue budget, we're investing an additional £1 million every year in staffing, ensuring that service has the right people, the right numbers, with the right skills to deliver for tenants, and to ensure the failures of the past are not repeated. We're also investing an additional £1 million per year in reactive repairs and maintenance, ensuring issues are addressed promptly and that we remain compliant with all statutory testing and servicing requirements. This is about getting the basics right, properly and permanently. The rent increase is fair and transparent and justified. Following a rent freeze last year, and in the context of the unprecedented level of investment in safety, quality and compliance, rents will increase by 4.8%. This equates to an average increase of £5.23 per week for social rent and £10.93 per week for affordable rent. This increase directly funds safer homes, faster repairs, decent living standards, and a housing service that works for tenants. And it remains good value when compared to private sector rents. I would like to thank both the finance team and the housing service for their joint work in producing such a comprehensive and credible HRA plan. In particular, I thank Chris Stratford and Steve Colk for the leadership they have shown in accelerating this housing improvement programme. This is an unprecedented commitment to council housing. Over the 30 years, 125.7 million is being invested specifically to maintain decent home standards as part of the wider 185.8 million HRA investment programme. This is what happens when housing is treated as a core responsibility, not as a reactive service as seen previously. This is a budget plan is serious about improvement and fully focused on delivering safe, decent homes for our residents. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions or comments? Councillor Ellis.
Thank you very much, Leader. Wow, how to follow that. Firstly, can I thank Councillor Steve Mountford for presenting the Council's HRA 26-27 revenue and capital budgets, together with the draft 30-year business plan for the period 2026 to 2056. Cabinet, you will recall that in response to our C4 regulatory judgment, the Council undertook an analysis of the root causes of failure which I then reported to Cabinet on the 22nd of January 2025. The analysis concluded that the failings of the Council's housing service was not a single catastrophic failure, but the inevitable consequence of a gradual erosion of the component elements of good service delivery and legislative compliance over very many years. There are some in our community with a political motive that rush to point the finger at this administration for the failings in the housing service. Well, for the avoidance of any doubt, let me draw your attention to the final lines of paragraph 4.1 of the report, where it clearly states that the failings of the housing service occurred over, and I quote, very many years predating this administration, unquote. The work undertaken as part of the Housing Improvement Programme has corroborated this through having identified, as my colleague has just said, historically poor contract management, poor record keeping, poor performance management, and poor investment in staff and systems. The resources that we have put in place through the investment of the Housing Improvement Programme has been to ensure that those root causes are addressed. This work has culminated in the production of the draft business plan presented as part of the report. This business plan corrects the wrongs of the past and the previous mismanagement of the HRA and the wider housing service. This business plan is forward-looking and future-proofs to ensure that the Council is well placed to address additional obligations placed on social housing, such as environmental compliance and energy efficiency. This business plan is a once-in-a-generation investment which will help to ensure that we have safe, secure and well-maintained social housing for Castle Point residents. This business plan is the culmination of the work of the Housing Improvement Plan since its inception a year ago. This includes the collection of improved levels of data about the housing stock and the first stock condition survey since 2018. A new housing management IT system has been procured and will be implemented in phases. This system will underpin the digital transformation of the housing service. This business plan contains unprecedented levels of capital investment to catch up from its previously deficient position and ensure the stock remains compliant with the regulatory and legislative requirements. There are countless good news stories contained within the report, many of them highlighted by Councillor Mountford. We should, as he has said, all be very proud of the unprecedented levels of capital investment that will be put into our housing service. My sincere thanks to all those that were involved in the preparation of this report. And finally, the Leader of the Council and I both gave a personal commitment to the Regulator for Social Housing and to our tenants that we would correct the wrongs of the past and would put things right. Whilst we recognise that we still have much to do, the HRA revenue and capital budgets set out in the report will be a huge step in helping us to meet our pledges. I look forward to meeting more of our tenants over the next few weeks and months as we continue on our housing improvement programme journey together. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Lillis. And I must just also say, I think when we first took control of this administration, took control of this council, we were shocked to find out the state of our housing services. And in fact, you know, it was us who actually called the inspectorate in, and we sat down with the inspectorate to have a look, and we welcomed the inspectorate to come in so we could see what really was wrong. And although I've been here a long, long time, I was shocked myself that the lack of investment in our tenants, and I think it was wrong. And I would just like to thank yourself personally, because I know he's put a lot of hours in, Councillor Lillis, and I thank him on that. And I would also like to thank the Housing Improvement Board, because they have also worked tirelessly, a lot of paperwork, but we're keen to make sure that we get it right. And I can say this to the tenants, we will get it right, and you'll see a massive improvement with this administration. Members, there are 4 recommendations set out in paragraph 3.1. Can we take these together? Thank you. I will move the recommendations. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Chair. Happy to second that.
Councillor Melford, thank you very much. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much, members. Members, agenda item 11, the medium-term financial strategy 2026 to 2027 to 2029 to 30. I'll call upon Mr Wilscoe, our 151 Office Financial Officer. Can you provide any updates to this report?
Yes, thank you, Leader. As noted within paragraph 9.3 of the report, at the time of writing and publishing, the government had not yet published the final local government finance settlement. I'm pleased to confirm that the settlement, which has come later than usual, was published Monday afternoon. There are some minor differences between the provisional settlement published in December and the final settlement published Monday. First, the government has made changes to their assumptions regarding business rates, which has a consequential reduction in the council's grant income received. However, such is the lateness of the settlement, for the first year, the government is providing a new compensating grant, and therefore there is no overall impact in 26-27. The second change is good news for the council, as we will receive an increase in grant funding for homelessness services. The government has recognised the pressures all councils continue to experience and has made additional funding available nationally. Our share is an additional 46,000 of grant in 26-27. This additional grant funding replaces some of the council's own funds going into that service, and as a result, we will end up with 46,000 being appropriated into the general fund. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr Wilscoe. Councillor Mountford, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. As in previous years, this item will be presented at Council following Cabinet. So if there is any questions, we can take them. Otherwise, we'll deal with it at Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions, members? No comments or questions. Thank you. Members, our recommendations 3, 4, 5, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 and 17 and 19 set out in paragraph 3.1 of the report noted. Thank you very much. Members, I will move recommendations 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 and 18 as set out in paragraph 3.1 of the report. Do I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mountford. Can we take all these together, members? Thank you, members. Is that agreed? Okay, members, thank you very much. Moving on. Right. Members, agenda item 12, matters referred from the Overview Scrutiny Committee. Members, there are none. Members, that concludes the formal business of this meeting. Meeting is closed at 6:33. Thank you very much and good evening.